The corridor was silent, except for the hum of the Keth weapons. Jinwoo stood between Saurian and 6 armed soldiers. Completely unarmed and completely calmed, the commander stared at him with a mixture of confusion and contempt. "You are one human," the commander said slowly, "against 6 trained soldiers of the Dominion. You have no weapons, no armor, no chance of survival. Why do you not simply step aside? Because she is my wife," Jinwoo said. "And on Earth, we protect our own sentiment," the commander spat. "Weakness disguised as virtue. Your species is barely worth noticing. You are primitives who crawled out of your gravity, well, only to find that the universe does not care about your feelings." Jinwoo smiled slightly. "Maybe you are right," he said. "Maybe we are primitives. Maybe the universe does not care about our feelings. But that does not change what I believe." He took a step forward, and the soldiers tensed. "I believe that every person has the right to be free," Jinwoo continued. "I believe that no treaty or law can make it acceptable to own another living being. I believe that standing up for what is right matters even when you cannot win." "Pretty words," the commander said. "They will not stop my soldiers." "No," Jinwoo agreed. "But maybe something else will." He pulled out a small device and pressed a button suddenly. His voice was broadcasting throughout the station, echoing from every speaker in every corridor. "My name is Jinwoo Park," he said loudly. "I am a human citizen, and I am being threatened by soldiers of the Keth Dominion. They are attempting to kidnap my wife in violation of galactic marriage law. They have declared that human legal standing means nothing to them. They are treating a living person as property." The commander's eyes widened. "What are you doing?" he demanded. "I am calling for witnesses," Jinwoo said. "I am letting everyone on this station know exactly what the Keth Dominion thinks about the laws they claim to follow." Doors began opening along the corridor. Beings of various species emerged from shops and offices and living quarters. They held up recording devices. They watched with curious eyes. A crowd was forming. "You think this matters?" the commander growled. "A few merchants and traders cannot stop us." "Maybe not," Jinwoo admitted. "But the recordings they are making will spread across the galaxy. Every species will see how the Keth Dominion treats the laws of neutral stations. Every civilization will know that you do not respect the treaties you signed." An elderly merchant with blue skin and 4 eyes stepped forward. "The human speaks truth," the merchant said. "Nexus Station is neutral ground. Violence here violates the accord of peaceful commerce." Another voice joined in. Then, another. Within moments, a dozen beings were standing behind Jinwoo, adding their witness to his. They were not soldiers. They could not fight the Keth in combat, but they could watch. They could record. They could make sure the galaxy saw what happened. Here, the commander looked at the growing crowd with barely contained fury. This was supposed to be a simple retrieval mission. He was supposed to grab the Valorian and leave before anyone noticed. Instead, he was standing in the middle of an international incident with recording devices pointed at him from every direction. "You are bluffing," the commander said. But his voice had lost its certainty. "I am not," Jinwoo replied. "I am just a human mechanic from a salvage yard. I have no power and no influence and no army. But I have something the Keth Dominion does not seem to understand. And what is that?" "I am willing to die for what I believe in," Jinwoo said simply. "I am willing to stand here and let you shoot me down while the entire galaxy watches. I am willing to become a symbol of everything wrong with how you treat other species." He gestured to the crowd around them. "And so are they," he continued. "Not because I asked them to, but because decent beings know right from wrong, even when it is dangerous to say so." The commander hesitated. Jinwoo pressed his advantage. "Earth may be new to the galaxy," he said. "We may be primitives by your standards, but we are also stubborn and we have long memories. If you kill me today, humanity will remember. We will tell stories about this moment for generations. And every time your Dominion wants to negotiate with humans, you will have to face the ghosts of what you did here." Silence stretched. Across the corridor, the commander's soldiers looked at each other uncertainly. The crowd continued to record. Sorian stepped out from behind Jinwoo and stood at his side. "I am Sorian of the Valorian sovereignty," she said, her voice clear and strong. "I am the last of my people, and I am choosing to be here. I am choosing this human as my husband. I am choosing to live free or die fighting for that freedom." She took Jinwoo's hand. "The Valorians are gone," she continued, "but I will not let our memory be forgotten. I will not let the Keth erase us completely. If you take me today, you take me as a martyr. And martyrs are far more dangerous than princesses." The commander stared at them. Both calculations flickered behind his cold eyes. The political costs of proceeding were mounting. With every passing second, the recordings would spread. The story would be told. The Dominion's reputation would suffer, and for what one Valorian woman who was no longer even legally claimable. "This is not over," the commander finally said, his voice tight with rage. "Maybe not," Jinwoo agreed. "But today it is. Today you walk away. Today my wife stays with me. Today the galaxy sees that even the smallest and newest species will stand up for what is right." The commander turned and signaled his soldiers to withdraw. They marched away without looking back. The crowd remained for a moment, uncertain, then slowly dispersed. The elderly merchant with blue skin approached Jinwoo and Sorian. "That was either very brave or very foolish," the merchant said. "Probably both." Jinwoo admitted. The merchant laughed and clapped him on the shoulder. "I like you, human," it said. "May your marriage be long and your enemies be few." It walked away. Still chuckling, Jinwoo and Sorian stood alone in the corridor. She was still holding his hand. "You could have died," she said quietly. "I know. You had no guarantee that your plan would work. I know that too." Turned to face him. "Why?" she asked. "Why would you risk everything for someone you barely know?" Jinwoo thought about the question. "Because that is what humans do," he finally said. "We protect the people we care about even when it does not make sense. We stand up for what is right, even when we are scared. We love fiercely and foolishly and without calculation." He met her eyes. "And I think I'm starting to care about you, Sorian, not because of treaties or laws or political value, but because you are brave and strong and kind beneath all that pain. Because you deserve someone who will stand beside you instead of using you." Tears glistened in her violet eyes. "I do not know if I understand love the way humans do," she whispered. "But I think I would like to learn." Jinwoo smiled. "Then let us learn together." They walked back to their ship. Hand in hand, the Keth would try again eventually. The galaxy was still full of dangers and uncertainties. But for now, they had each other, and that was enough. 3 weeks later, Sorian stood in the observation deck of their ship and watched a blue-green planet grow larger in the viewport. "That is Earth," Jinwoo said, standing beside her. "It is beautiful," she whispered. "Wait until you see the oceans," he said, "and the mountains and the forests. It is even more beautiful from the ground." She looked at him nervously. "Will your people accept me?" Jinwoo laughed. "They are going to love you," he promised. "Although I should warn you about something." "What?" "We have a tradition called meeting parents," he said. "Except my parents are gone, so you will be meeting my father's brother and his family instead. And they can be intense." Sorian did not know what that meant, but the warmth in his voice made her think she might finally understand what humans called hope. She had been asleep. For 2 centuries, she had woken to find that everything she knew was gone, but standing beside this strange, stubborn, impossibly kind human, She felt something she had never expected to feel again. She felt like she was home. Nexus Station was one of the oldest neutral trading posts in the galaxy. It had been built thousands of years ago by a species that no longer existed. And since then, it had been maintained by a rotating council of civilizations who all agreed that some places should remain free of conflict. Marriages performed on Nexus Station were recognized by every major power in the galaxy. It was the perfect place for what they needed to. Jinwoo docked the ship carefully and helped Saurian disguise herself with a hooded cloak that hid her distinctive Valorian features. They made their way through crowded corridors filled with beings of every shape and size. The air smelled of strange foods and unfamiliar chemicals, and voices speaking hundreds of languages blended into a constant murmur of sound. The marriage registration office was a small room near the center of the station. The official who worked there was an ancient creature that resembled a turtle standing upright, with a shell covered in intricate carvings and eyes that seemed to hold the wisdom of centuries. Marriage registration, the turtle-like official said in a voice like grinding stones. Species of the parties involved. I am human, Jinwoo said. She is Valorian. The official's eyes widened slightly. Valorian, it repeated. The records say there are no Valorians left. Saurian lowered her hood. The records are wrong, she said quietly. The official studied her for a long moment, then made a sound that might have been a laugh. The universe is full of surprises, it said. Very well, human and Valorian, this is an unusual pairing. What are your reasons for seeking marriage? Jinwoo glanced at Saurian. They had discussed this on the journey to the station. She had wanted to simply state the legal reasons and be done with it. Had refused. I need to ask her something first, Jinwoo said to the official. The turtle-like creature waved a wrinkled hand in permission. Jinwoo turned to face Saurian directly. I know why this marriage makes sense legally, he said. I know it will protect you from the Keth and void the old contract. But I'm not going to marry you for those reasons. Saurian frowned. What do you mean? On Earth, Jinwoo explained. Marriage is not just a legal arrangement. It is a promise between two people who choose to build a life together. It is about love and partnership and facing the future side by side. I know we have only known each other for a short time, he continued. And I am not going to pretend that I am in love with you because that would be dishonest. But I am also not going to enter a marriage that is just a piece of paper. Then what are you suggesting? Saurian asked. Jinwoo took her hands in his. I am suggesting that we make this real, he said. Not because we have to, but because we want to. I am suggesting that we give ourselves a chance to build something genuine, to learn about each other, to see if what we feel now can grow into something more. Saurian stared at him with those violet eyes. You want to try to actually be married, she said slowly. Not just legally bound. Yes, Jinwoo confirmed. I want to try. I want to learn what marriage means with you. Not as an arrangement or a contract, but as a partnership between two people who chose each other. We barely know each other. That is true, Jinwoo agreed. But I know that you are brave and strong, and that you have survived things that would have broken most people. I know that you deserve to be treated as a person rather than a possession. And I know that I want to be the one who shows you what that feels like. Saurian's hands trembled in his grip. No one has ever spoken to me like this, she whispered. Then everyone else was wrong, Jinwoo said simply. She was quiet for a long moment. The official waited patiently, ancient eyes watching the scene with what might have been amusement or might have been approval. Finally, Saurian spoke. On Valoria, she said, marriage was about duty and alliance. There was no expectation of love, only of obligation. I was taught that personal feelings were irrelevant compared to the needs of the state. That sounds sad, Jinwoo said. It was what I knew, Saurian replied. But I always wondered what it would be like to choose for myself, to be with someone because I wanted to be, not because I was told to be. She met his eyes directly. I want to learn what human marriage means, she said. I want to understand this concept of choosing each other. I want to know what it feels like to be valued for who I am. Is that a yes? Jinwoo asked with a small smile. It is a yes, Soryan confirmed. Not because of the law or the Keth or the old contract, but because you are the first person in my life who has ever asked me what I want. And I want to see where that leads. The official made that grinding stone laugh again. Humans, it said with something like wonder. I have performed many marriages in my long life, but I have never seen a species so concerned with romance. You are surprisingly sentimental for Deathworlders. Deathworlders? Soryan asked. Earth is classified as a high-gravity death world, the official explained. Extreme temperatures, volatile weather patterns, dangerous wildlife. Most species consider it remarkable that anything intelligent evolved there at all. Jinwoo shrugged. It is home, he said. The official shook its ancient head and began preparing the marriage documents. The ceremony was simple. They spoke words in the universal galactic language, promising to recognize each other as partners under the laws of all civilized space. They pressed their hands together, and the official recorded their biometric signatures. A certificate was generated and transmitted to the galactic registry in the eyes of the law. They were now husband and wife. Soryan looked at the certificate displayed on the screen and felt something shift inside her for the first time in 217 years. She belonged to herself. No one could claim her and no one could own her. She was free. How do you feel? Jinwoo asked. Strange, she admitted. Like I've been carrying a weight I did not know I was holding, and it is suddenly gone. Before she could say more, alarms began blaring throughout the station. Official checked the display and cursed in a language the translation program could not interpret. Keth Dominion vessels have arrived, it announced. They are demanding access to the station registry. Jinwoo grabbed Soryan's hand. We need to go. They ran through the corridors toward the docking bay, where their ship waited behind them. They could hear announcements warning all station residents to remain calm and cooperate with the Dominion authorities. They almost made it. The Keth soldiers were waiting for them at the entrance to the docking bay. There were 6 of them, tall and armored with weapons that hummed with deadly energy. Their commander stepped forward, a scarred veteran with cold eyes and a cruel smile. Valorian, the commander said, you belong to the Dominion. Surrender now, and your human pet will be allowed to live. Jinwoo stepped in front of Soryan. She is not your property, he said, his voice calm and steady. She is my wife. The commander laughed. Human marriages hold no weight under galactic law, he said. The treaty gives us rights that supersede any union you might have fabricated. Check the registry, Jinwoo said. Our marriage was performed by a licensed official on a neutral station. It is fully legal and binding. The commander's smile faltered, signaled one of his soldiers to check the information. A moment later, the soldier reported back with visible confusion. The marriage is valid, the soldier said. It was registered moments ago. The old contract has been automatically voided. The commander's face twisted with rage. This changes nothing, he snarled. The Dominion does not recognize human legal standing. We are taking the Valorian by force. He raised his weapon and pointed it at Jinwoo's chest. Move aside. Human, or die where you stand. Jinwoo did not move behind him. Soryan gripped his shoulder, and he could feel her trembling, but he was not afraid. He was exactly where he needed to be, standing between the woman he had promised to protect and the people who wanted to harm her. He met the commander's eyes and refused to look away. No, he said simply. The asteroid field was a graveyard of broken rock and ancient debris. Jinwoo flew through it with hands that did not shake. his years of working with machines giving him an instinct for how the ship would move and respond behind them. The Keth warships struggled to keep up. They were larger and more powerful, but their size made them clumsy in the tight spaces. Between the tumbling asteroid, Saurian gripped her armrest and watched him work with wide eyes. "You fly well for someone who claims to be a simple mechanic," she said. "I have been taking apart engines my whole life." Jinwoo replied without looking away from the controls. "Flying one is just the same thing in reverse." A Keth missile streaked past them and exploded against an asteroid. Ahead, fragments of rock scattered in all directions, and Jinwoo banked hard to avoid them. The ship groaned with the strain but held together. "They're not giving up," Saurian said. "Neither am I." Jinwoo answered he spotted a narrow gap between two massive asteroids and aimed directly for it. The ship barely fit through, scraping against rock on both sides behind them. The lead Keth vessel tried to follow and slammed into the gap with a sound they could hear even through the vacuum of space. Two ships remaining. Jinwoo kept flying an hour passed before they finally emerged from the other side of the asteroid field. The remaining Keth vessels were far behind. Damaged and cautious, Jinwoo found a small moon with a deep crater and set the ship down inside, using the rock walls to hide them from sensors. "We should be safe here for a while," he said. Leaning back in his chair with exhaustion, Saurian was staring at him with an expression he could not interpret. "Why?" she asked. "Why what? Why did you run?" she said. "Why did you risk your life for me? You could have handed me over and gone back to your normal existence." "You did not even hesitate." Jinwoo thought about the question. "On Earth," he said slowly, "we have a belief that all people are born with something called dignity. It means that every person has value just because they exist, not because of what they can do or who they are related to, just because they are alive." Saurian tilted her head. "And this dignity cannot be taken away. Some people try to take it," Jinwoo admitted, "but that does not mean it is right. The Keth called you property. They called you an asset. But you are not a thing to be owned. You are a person. You risked death for a principle," Saurian said. And there was something like wonder in her voice. "I risked death for you," Jinwoo corrected gently. "Principles are important, but you are a living being who was scared and alone. That mattered more to me than any law or treaty." Saurian was quiet for a long time when she finally spoke again. Her voice was softer than he had ever heard it. "I should tell you the complete truth," she said. "There are things I did not mention before." Jinwoo waited. "My father did not just put me in stasis to save my life," she continued. "He also arranged a marriage for me. A political alliance with another species who promised to protect me in exchange for my hand." "A marriage," Jinwoo repeated. "Yes," Saurian confirmed. "It is binding under galactic law. The contract was signed before I went into stasis. I was to marry the heir of the North Federation when I woke. And this heir?" Jinwoo asked carefully. "Where are they now?" Saurian's eyes darkened with grief. "The North Federation was destroyed by the Keth 60 years after my people," she said. "Their entire species is gone. There is no one left to fulfill the contract. Then the marriage cannot happen. That is not how galactic law works," Saurian explained. "The contract still exists, and because it cannot be fulfilled, I am in a state of legal limbo. The Keth have argued for centuries that this means the original war reparations treaty takes precedence." Jinwoo rubbed his temples. "So the Keth claim they own you because of a treaty, and you cannot escape that claim because you are technically engaged to marry someone who no longer exists." "Yes, that is incredibly stupid," Jinwoo said flatly, "despite everything." Saurian laughed. It was a small sound, surprised out of her, but it transformed her face in a way that made Jinwoo's heart skip. "It is," she agreed. "Galactic law is full of such stupidity. Treaties and contracts written centuries ago still controlled the lives of beings who never agreed to them. On Earth, Jinwoo said, "We have a concept called consent. It means that people have to agree to things willingly for those things to be valid. A marriage without consent is not a real marriage." Soryan's eyes widened. "Truly?" she asked. "Your species requires both parties to agree before a union is recognized." "Of course," Jinwoo said, puzzled by her surprise. "You cannot force someone to marry you. That would be wrong. Many species in the galaxy would disagree," Soryan said quietly. "I was raised to believe that political marriages were simply part of duty, that my desires did not matter as long as the alliance was secured." "That sounds lonely." Soryan looked away. "It was," she admitted. "I spent my entire life being valuable for what I represented rather than who I was. I was a princess, a bargaining chip, a symbol. Never just Soryan." Jinwoo reached out and touched her hand again, this time. She did not flinch. "You are just Soryan to me," he said. "I do not care about treaties or contracts or political value. I only care that you are a person who deserves to be treated like one." She turned back to face him, and there were tears in her violet eyes. "You truly are strange," she whispered, before he could respond. The ship's sensors beeped an alert. Jinwoo checked the display and felt his stomach tighten. "The Keth are searching the area," he said. "They have not found us yet, but they will eventually. We cannot stay here." Soryan straightened in her chair, and he watched as she transformed from a grieving woman into something harder and more determined. "There is one way to break the cycle," she said. "One method to void both the marriage contract and the Keth claim permanently." "What is it?" She took a deep breath. "If I marry someone else first," she said, "the old contract becomes void, and under galactic law, a spouse has primary claim over any individual, superseding all previous treaties." Jinwoo understood immediately. "You want to get married. I want to ask you to marry me," Soryan corrected. "But I will not do it the way my father did. I will not make you agree to something without understanding what it means." "What does it mean?" Soryan met his eyes directly. "It means the Keth would have no legal claim to me anymore," she said. "It means I would be free of the old contract. It means we would be bound together under galactic law until one of us dies." "And what does it mean to you?" Jinwoo asked softly. She was silent for a long moment. "I do not know," she finally admitted. "I have never had the chance to decide what marriage means to me. It was always something that happened to me rather than something I chose." Jinwoo nodded slowly. "Then, that is what we need to figure out," he said. "Not the legal part, but what do you actually want?" Soryan stared at him as if he had spoken in a language she did not understand. "What I want," she repeated. "Yes," Jinwoo confirmed. "What do you want? Not what your father wanted. Not what the law requires. What does Soryan want?" No one had ever asked her that question before. The tears that had been threatening finally spilled down her silver cheeks. "I want to be free," she whispered. "I want to make my own choices. I want to know what it feels like to be valued for who I am rather than what I can provide." Jinwoo smiled gently. "Then let us find a way to give you that," he said. Together, he pulled up the navigation charts and began searching for the nearest neutral station where marriages could be legally registered. Behind them, the Keth continued their search. Ahead of them lay a chance at freedom. Soryan watched Jinwoo work and felt something she had not experienced in over 200 years. She felt hope. 3 days passed as Jinwoo studied every system. On the ship he learned how to read the basic controls and how to navigate the translation program more efficiently. He discovered that the vessel had once belonged to something called the Valorian Sovereignty, a name that meant nothing to him when he searched the galactic information networks for information about the Valorians. He found very little. They had been an ancient and proud civilization that had existed for thousands of years. Before being destroyed in a war nearly 2 centuries ago, the records described them as advanced, isolationist, and extinct. Not a single Valorian was known to have survived the destruction of their homeworld. Jinwoo looked at the woman in the stasis pod and wondered if the records were wrong on the 4th day. He made a mistake. He was trying to access the ship's core database to find more information about its history when he triggered a security protocol. He had not noticed alarms sounded. Throughout the vessel, lights flashed in warning patterns. The stasis pod began to hum with increasing intensity. Jinwoo ran to the sealed compartment and found the pod's display showing up. Revival sequence in progress. He tried to stop it, but the controls would not respond. The process had been locked in, and there was nothing he could do but watch. The revival took 6 hours. Jinwoo stayed near the pod the entire time, watching the woman's vital signs stabilize and her body temperature slowly rise. He prepared food and water and clean clothes, not knowing what she would need when she woke. He tried to imagine what it would feel like to wake up after 200 years and find that everything you knew was gone. The thought made his chest tight with sympathy. The pod opened with a soft hiss, and the woman's eyes fluttered open. They were a deep violet color, unlike anything he had ever seen. She stared at the ceiling for a long moment before turning her head to look at him. Fear flashed across her features. She scrambled backward out of the pod and pressed herself against the wall, her hands raised in what might have been a defensive gesture. Jinwoo held up his own hands and stepped back slowly. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said in a calm voice. "You are safe here." She spoke rapidly in a language the translation program struggled to interpret. Fragments came through, words like danger and betrayal and where. Jinwoo waited patiently as the program adjusted to her speech patterns. After several minutes, communication became possible. "Who are you?" she demanded, her voice sharp with fear and suspicion. "My name is Jinwoo Park," he answered. "I am human. I found this ship and I found you inside it." "Human," she repeated, testing the word. "I do not know this species. We are new to the galaxy," Jinwoo said. "We only made contact with other civilizations 15 years ago." She processed this information with visible confusion. "How long?" she asked slowly. "How long have I been asleep?" Jinwoo hesitated. He did not want to cause her more pain, but he also could not lie to her. 217 years, he said gently. The color drained from her already pale face. She slid down the wall until she was sitting on the floor, her legs folded beneath her. Her violet eyes stared at nothing as the weight of his words settled over her. "They are all dead," she whispered. "My people, my family, everyone I ever knew." "I am sorry," Jinwoo said, and he meant it with every part of himself. She looked up at him with an expression he could not read. "Why do you apologize?" she asked. "You did not kill them." "I am sorry because you are in pain," he said simply, "and I wish I could make it better." She studied him for a long moment. Something in her gaze shifted from suspicion to curiosity. "You are strange," she said. "I have met many species in my life, but I have never heard one apologize for another's suffering without cause." Jinwoo shrugged. "Maybe humans are strange," he admitted, "but I think kindness is pretty normal for us." He offered her the water he had prepared, and after a moment of hesitation, she accepted. I showed her to the living quarters and explained that she could have privacy for as long as she needed. He told her he would be in the control room if she had questions. He did not pressure her for answers. He did not demand to know who she was or why she had been hidden on this ship. He simply gave her space and time too. Days passed before she came to find him. Jinwoo was sitting in the pilot's chair, studying navigation charts and trying to figure out what to do next. She stood in the doorway, watching him for several minutes before speaking. "My name is Sorian," she said quietly. Jinwoo turned to face her. "It is nice to meet you." "Sorian," She moved into the room and sat in the co-pilot's chair. Her posture was rigid with tension, but her eyes were clearer than they had been before. I was a princess of the Valorian sovereignty, she continued, third daughter of the ruling house, heir to nothing important, but still valuable for political purposes. What happened to you? Jinwoo asked. She was silent for a long moment. There was a war, she finally said. The Keth Dominion wanted to absorb our territory, and when we refused, they decided to destroy us instead. My father knew we could not win, so he made arrangements to save what he could. He put you in stasis. Yes, she confirmed. This ship was meant to take me to safety, to allies who would protect me until the war was over. But I think those allies never came. The records say the Valorians were wiped out, Jinwoo said carefully. There is nothing about survivors or allies. Sorian nodded slowly. Then my father's hopes were for nothing, she said. I am the last of my kind, sleeping through the centuries, while everything I loved turned to dust. Jinwoo did not know what to say. He reached out and placed his hand over hers where it rested on the armrest. She flinched at the contact, but did not pull away. You are not alone now, he said. She looked at him with those violet eyes, and for a moment he saw the depth of her grief and loneliness. Then she looked away. You are kind, she said. Dangerously kind. There are those in the galaxy who would take advantage of such kindness. Maybe, Jinwoo admitted. But I would rather be too kind than too cruel. Before she could respond, an alarm sounded throughout the ship. Jinwoo turned to the control panel and felt his stomach drop. 3 vessels had appeared on the sensors, and they were approaching fast. Their identification signals marked them as ships of the Keth Dominion. No, Sorian breathed, her face going pale. They found me, after all this time. They found me. The communication system activated, and a harsh voice filled the control room. Unidentified vessel. You are carrying property of the Keth Dominion. Surrender the Valorian asset immediately or face destruction. Jinwoo looked at Sorian, then at the approaching ships, then back at Sorian property, he repeated, his voice flat with anger. There was a treaty, Sorian said rapidly. After the war, the Keth claimed all Valorian survivors as war reparations. They have legal rights to my bloodline under galactic law. Jinwoo felt something cold settle in his chest. He was just a human mechanic from a salvage yard. He had no weapons, no power, no way to fight 3 warships, but he also knew, with absolute certainty, that he was not going to hand over a living person to be treated as property. Hold on, he said, his hands moving across the control panel. He had spent 3 days learning this ship. He knew it was faster than anything the Keth were likely to have. He knew there was an asteroid field nearby that could provide cover. He knew that sometimes the only option was to run. The ship lurched forward as he pushed the engines to maximum behind them. The Keth vessels opened fire. Ahead of them lay danger and uncertainty, and a future that had suddenly become very complicated. Jinwoo smiled grimly and flew straight toward it. Jinwoo Park wiped the grease from his hands and stared at the notification on his tablet for the 3rd time that morning. The message still said the same thing. It told him he had won a Class 7 personal vessel in the Galactic Prosperity Lottery, and that he needed to claim his prize within 30 standard days at Orbital Station 12. He laughed and tossed the tablet onto his workbench. Salvage yard where he worked was full of broken machines and forgotten dreams. And Jinwoo had learned long ago that nothing good came for free. He had entered that lottery 6 months ago after drinking too much rice wine with his friend Do Yun-fei. Entry fee had been cheap enough that he had not thought twice about wasting the credits. He had forgotten about it completely until now. Probably a scam, he muttered to himself as he returned to the engine he had been rebuilding. But the notification kept appearing on his tablet throughout the day. By evening, curiosity had replaced his skepticism. He ran the verification codes through 3 different systems. and each one confirmed the message was legitimate. The Galactic Prosperity Lottery was real, and apparently he had actually won something. Jinwoo sat on the edge of his small bed that night and thought about his life. He was 28 years old. He worked 12-hour shifts at a salvage yard. He lived in a tiny apartment with a window that faced a brick wall. He had no family left after his grandmother passed 2 years ago. He had nothing holding him to earth except habit and fear. The next morning, he requested leave from his job and booked passage to Orbital Station 12. The journey took 4 days on a cramped transport ship filled with traders and workers heading to various stations. Jinwoo spent most of the trip staring out the small window at the stars and wondering what kind of broken-down junk he was about to inherit. Humanity had made first contact with the galactic community just 15 years ago. Since then, humans had become the newest and least respected members of a vast civilization spanning thousands of star systems. Aliens saw humans as primitives who had barely crawled out of their gravity. Well, they tolerated humanity, but rarely took them seriously. Jinwoo had experienced this attitude many times when dealing with alien traders at the salvage yard. They spoke slowly to him as if he were a child. They offered insultingly low prices for valuable components. They assumed he could not understand complex technology. He had learned to ignore it. Getting angry at every slight would have exhausted him years ago. Orbital Station 12 was a massive structure that housed millions of beings from hundreds of different species. Jinwoo felt small as he walked through the crowded corridors toward the lottery administration office. The official who processed his claim was a tall insectoid creature with clicking mandibles and 4 arms that moved constantly as it typed on multiple screens. Human, the official said without looking up. You are here for the vessel prize. Yes, Jinwoo answered. Unexpected winner, the official continued. The probability of a human winning was calculated at less than 1% given your species. Participation rates. Lucky me, Jinwoo said flatly. The official made a sound that might have been a laugh or might have been contempt. Jinwoo could not tell the difference. The vessel is in docking bay 47, the official said, finally looking at him with compound eyes that revealed nothing. It was surrendered to the lottery pool as unclaimed salvage 8 years ago, and no one has wanted it since. Why not? Unknown origin, the official said. The previous owner died without heirs, and the registration data was corrupted beyond recovery. It is functional, but its history is a mystery. Most serious buyers prefer vessels with clean records. Jinwoo nodded. A ship with unknown history was exactly the kind of thing that would end up as a lottery prize. He thanked the official and made his way to docking bay 47. The walk took nearly an hour through increasingly empty corridors. By the time he reached the bay, he was alone. The door opened with a hiss, and Jinwoo stopped breathing for a moment. The ship before him was beautiful. It was sleek and silver, with elegant curves that spoke of advanced engineering. It looked nothing like the battered junkers he had expected. The vessel was perhaps 30 meters long, with a design unlike anything he had seen from the major galactic powers. He approached slowly, running his hand along the smooth hull. The metal was cool and strange beneath his fingers, and it seemed to hum with contained energy. He found the entry hatch and pressed his palm against the identification panel. The ship recognized him as its new owner, and the hatch slid open silently inside. The vessel was even more impressive. The corridors were wide and clean. Lighting adjusted automatically to comfortable levels as he walked. Air smelled fresh and filtered. The control room was compact, but sophisticated displays showed system readouts in a language he could not read. But a helpful translation program activated when it detected his presence. The ship was fully fueled. All systems were operational. Life support was functioning at optimal levels. This cannot be right, Jinwoo said to himself. He spent hours exploring the vessel. The living quarters were comfortable and well appointed. engine room held technology that made his salvage yard experience seem primitive. The medical bay was stocked with equipment he could not identify. Everything was too good a ship. Like this should have been worth millions of credits. Why would it sit unclaimed in a lottery pool for 8 years? Why would no one want? I found his answer in a sealed compartment near the rear of the ship. The door would not open when he first tried it. The control panel displayed a warning in the same unknown language, and the translation program struggled to interpret it. After several attempts, he managed to override the lock using techniques he had learned from years of cracking open salvage machines. The door slid open, and cold air rushed out. The compartment was small and dark. Emergency lighting flickered on, revealing a single object in the center of the room. It was a stasis pod. Through the frosted glass cover, Jinwoo could see a figure inside. He wiped away the condensation and looked closer. A woman lay within the pod. She was not human. Her skin was pale silver with faint patterns that might have been natural markings or might have been tattoos. Her hair was long and white, spread around her head like a halo. Her features were delicate and sharp at the same time, beautiful in a way that seemed almost painful. She looked peaceful, as if she were simply sleeping. Jinwoo checked the pod's display panel. The translation program took several minutes to decode the information, and what it revealed made his blood run cold. The woman had been in stasis for 217 years. Pod was set to maintain her indefinitely until manually deactivated. There was no identification, no name, no explanation for why she was here. He searched the compartment and found a small data crystal hidden beneath the pod's base. When he inserted it into the ship's main computer, the translation program could not decode it. The encryption was military grade, far beyond anything he could break. Jinwoo sat in the pilot's chair and stared at the ceiling. Had come here expecting to win a piece of junk he could sell for spare parts. Instead, he had found a mystery, a ship too advanced to be a lottery prize, a woman who had been sleeping for over 2 centuries. Secrets locked behind encryption he could not crack. He thought about reporting this to the station authorities. He thought about walking away and pretending he had never seen any of this. He thought about what his grandmother would have said if she were still alive. When you find someone who needs help, she had always told him, you help them. That is what it means to be human. The woman in the pod needed help. He did not know who she was or why she was here, but he knew she was alone, and he was the only one who could do anything about it. Jinwoo made his decision. He would stay. He would learn the truth. He would figure out what to do next. He did not know that his choice would change the course of his life forever, or that the woman sleeping in his new ship carried secrets that powerful forces would kill to possess.